Breeders Cup Saturday 2024. Gino Bacola alongside Barry Spears, the sniper. We have a Friday video that we've already recorded that's already been posted to YouTube. If you want to take a look at that and you need help with the Friday races, we go through all 5 Breeders Cup Friday races. On this show, we'll take a look at the 9 Breeders Cup races for Saturday. Everything you need. You can head to shop.drf.com, Breeders Cup past performances, betting strategies for both days, clocker reports. Mike Welsh has been over at Del Mar. He's been watching these horses for weeks and weeks leading up, and he's been checking them out in the days coming up. So there's clocker report videos, there's clocker report written reports, and they're all available as part of the package there, the Breeders' Cup package. Barry, buddy, ready to dive on into Saturday, my friend?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We have 9 Saturday Breeders' Cup races to discuss, and we will start with race number 4 on the Saturday card. So this is November the 2nd we're looking at, and we start with the Saturday Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, race number 4. So this one, Barry, from a figure standpoint, the 9 Ways and Means, who's always been highly regarded. She was a very impressive 2-year-old debut winner last year at Saratoga. She earned a 90 Beyer speed figure when she won by 12. And then she had kind of physical issues, a little bit of a hiccup that caused her to miss some time. But she showed back up this year, tried to get her in the Oaks. Didn't even run that poorly in the Oaks. She ran 4th in that field, but nobody was in the same range as Torpedo Anna. Since then, they've shortened her back up, and she's won 3 straight races. This is a tougher group, though. Like, she's definitely the horse to start with because her figures have been good. She's been really good since they've turned her back. But right after her, the next tier of like 3 or 4 horses are really good. Like Vava, who may not like Saratoga that much. You know, you look at her form overall, a couple of her not as good races came at Saratoga. So maybe she just doesn't like Saratoga that much. She's certainly capable of a huge race and winning this. You've got Society, who beat Vava and Scylla at Saratoga. Vava, what's cool about Society too, she showed that she can sit off a little bit. So maybe she's maturing as she's getting a little older, because she used to be real one-dimensional speed. She could not sit off at all. She won the Cotillion. She's a multiple grade 1 winner. You have to the outside, Scylla, who cut back to 7 furlongs, and she was in between Society and Vava. She was really good this year, and then she lost to Adair Manor and then to Society, and no real shame in either of those races. I mean, that's 4 horses just from a starting point that are all really, really legitimate in here. And that's not even bringing in horses like the 2 and the 3, who are super lightly raced with a ton of upside. One Magic Filly and Pleasant, they just haven't competed with this caliber of horses yet. So even though there's no Sweet Azteca, who may have been the favorite or would have probably been vying for favoritism with Ways and Means, it's still a strong group.
Oh yeah, top to bottom. I mean, Frosted Dawn is hard to make as a winner, but the rest of them I can see winning. Maybe Pandora's Gift, tough to get to the winner's circle too, but everybody else has got a decent shot. In fact, I have this race, the pace getting hot up front.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves some possibilities here. I think Vava is just in a weird situation where her running style is going to affect her positioning, and it might not be the greatest. Where, you know, she's not going to be in the front runners. She's going to be right behind them, but in doing so, she might get cooked too.
A little taken out of her.
Right. And then the horses from behind, the closers, will really, you know, come flying late. And I think that's going to happen. In particular, I really like Soul of an Angel.
I think she fits well. Man, her races
super.
This year, when you just look at the 5, I think it's 5 races this year, they just make sense, all of them. They're all, I mean, like, faster than she'd been running before. And the last race, the 7 furlong one, was the one you kind of needed to see from her, because every other race in her entire career, except her debut, was a mile or longer. See, it's like, is she going to be able to get a 7 furlong trip Absolutely. She came flying there, and this year, she beat Randomized, and she almost beat Idiomatic. She looked like she had Idiomatic beat all the way that race, and Idiomatic just got her on the wire in the Molly picked her. So, I mean, I've been really impressed with her this year.
Well, if you look at this horse's the split times in the races that were basically around one turn this year, so that would be uh, the Aqueduct race.
Ruffian.
Yep, the Ruffian, and then the Princess Rooney. That's the trip that this horse is still going to project to get in this race.
Yep.
But if you look at the split times, and I know this is just raw, we're not, taking into account anything, just the time itself. If you look at the split time on those two races, the quicker the better. And I think this pace is going to be quicker than this horse has ever seen. And that's why I think that this horse is going to be just like a freight train coming late. My only concern is this horse gets lost early and has a tough time making
A
up
little
that
too
ground.
much to work. Yeah,
Right.
too much to do late. But at least we know she can at least.
Yes,
and
she has
so
the ability.
we know. So what's nice about her, and like what you're saying, and I try to do this in my head a lot of times. She hasn't done it all like against this group at this trip, but we know she can beat classy horses. We saw her beat Randomized, and we saw her right there with the Breeders' Cup Distaff winner. Those are the 1-2 Breeders' Cup Distaff horses from last year. Randomized, and so we're talking about, a horse who can certainly keep classy company. And then she now checked the box that she can get 7 furlongs. Can she get the trip in this race? Right? That's what it comes down to now. Because we know she can do the other things. Just does she get the setup in here? Man.
Yeah, I think she does. And the other horse that is, to me, projected to get that sort of same trip, although slightly different because this horse is on the way outside, is Scylla.
The 10. That was my top pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she can just sit a little closer, right? But this feels like a perfect trip for her.
Yes, absolutely.
We're on the same page in this one quite a bit. Scylla on the outside could offer you some value. The 8's going to come running late, offer you some really nice value. It's a good group. I mean, the top tier is really nice, but maybe some fun price possibilities here to the outside in race number 4, the Filly and Mare Sprint. Let's move to the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. This one is a 5 furlong turf sprint. Barry Cogburn setting records, fast. What's cool about him too, like he's fast, but he finishes. He doesn't need the lead, but this year he doesn't even really mess around. He's like, I'm just going to go out and get the lead and then finish everybody off and kick on. But this will definitely be as good of a group as he's faced. Got to start with him though, because he's the top of the division right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally, I know people will laugh at me when I say this, but I personally don't believe his body of work has been that great. I know he's won and
It's
he's done
fast.
everything. Yeah, he's been fast, but he hasn't really faced the toughest of the tough.
Yep.
And he's gonna get that from these horses from Europe, especially in this spot.
The outside horses,
they run 5 furlongs a lot
against
there.
Group 1 company. Look at Brad Sell's races. All Group 1, like just straight legitimate Group 1s. The outside draw is a little tough, but he's got enough speed maybe to kind of get him away and then finish. I mean, that horse is really classy. Big Evs.
That's who I like here.
Right? He'll come
I think
running.
this horse is going to get another Breeders' Cup win. I think this horse is better than he was last year coming into this race. So you got to watch out because this horse has speed too, and is going to be around it early. I just if Cogburn so happens to stub his toe, I think Big Evs is going to be one of the horses right there, along with Star of Mystery.
That's another one because this horse has a wicked late kick.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be freight training it late. I think he just got
she got
a little
popped,
bad luck last time, and I don't think they really wanted to win that race anyway. I think we talked about that, and I was like, this was really the setup. I know they were trying to win that race,
But you're not all out, is what you mean,
right,
right? Like you're not
exactly.
geared up, cranked up, priming your horse in the mornings leading into that race. Like that's the race that you want to win when you're in there, but you're not so concerned with winning as much as getting the good race, helping it set up for what's next. And that's this. Yeah, that was a good trouble trip from Star of Mystery last time. She was just behind horses and never really had a shot there. I think you're muted. Uh-oh. Can't hear you for a sec. There we go. I think you're back now. Any other thoughts on this one, Barry?
You there?
Yep, we got you. So, Star of Mystery. What do we do with the horse like AG Bullet, who's been really good sprinting, but going a little longer sprinting, like 6.5? Is this maybe a little short for where she could get a good trip? Uh-oh. You're losing me right now? Can't hear me? Okay. Let's Okay, we had a little bit of a technical glitch there, but we're back. I was asking, what do we do with, horse like AG Bullet, who's good going 6.5? Can he sit? Can she sit off a little bit here? I
No,
don't
we
know.
don't want that horse to sit.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
I know strategy wise,
yeah, we want her to be pushing the pace. And I don't know if she really, I think that's where she's at her best when she's just let loose and running. So I think they're going to try to be aggressive with her in here too.
I would hope so. I mean, a lot of that is contingent on the horse that I like winning. But a horse like the 10, I don't even know how you say that.
Okay. So this one is
I don't even know how you say it. The
Izzy
IS horse.
Vunga Vunga.
Yeah.
Yep.
What you said.
Yep.
This horse, I think this horse has a really good shot. He's awfully good. Me personally, I just have no luck with Graham Motion. I can never catch him. Although I think the last time I did catch him was in a spot like this, and it was main sequence.
This horse is not, as I say, this horse is not bad at all. Honestly,
No, he's
it's
very,
just
very good.
trip needs a trip, but I wouldn't mind throwing into any type of multi exotics in here.
I mean, the horse is training just bullet after bullet. I know it's at
Yeah.
Fairhill, but still.
The race was nice at Colonial. It was exactly the type of race that you would like to see the first start off of 7 months and then get that race under your belt. And now little fitness, little foundation.
There's another one that I may throw downfield with, and it's the 4 Starlust. If you put a line through that effort at Longchamp last time,
on the soft,
this horse has been improving and getting better and better and better. Finishing behind Big Evs and Brad Sell a couple of times and believing. But I like to see that this horse is really close to those horses, especially at York. You see that effort on August 23rd. And this horse had some bad luck. You see in the race at Longchamp, badly hampered and collided with the rail. The time before that, rally when Jockey dropped the rein.
He wasn't going to win that race, but he was
No,
was moving up the inside and was finishing well. He wasn't like tiring. He actually was moving forward. So he was probably going to be like 4th in that race, something along those lines. And he actually bounced off the rail. It was like, whoa, it was a brutal trip for Starlust.
I mean, and this is the kind of race where this kind of horse can turn the tables on those other two. Even
At
Star of Mystery,
way bigger price,
right? And this horse isn't far off of these other horses. It's just a little luck here or there in the middle of the race, and this one's in the winner circle, and you're collecting $60 on a win ticket. I really have to take a look at this horse on Saturday, but definitely on my radar as a big price to include in everything.
We will get rewarded if we can beat Cogburn in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Let's move to the Distaff, race number 6. This one took a big hit earlier in the week when Idiomatic was announced as retired. So we will now have Torpedo Anna, the heavy favorite in here. She's 4-5 on the morning line. And honestly, the way I'm looking at this race, it's like it's her
And everybody else.
and the 9. Well, it's her, then the 9, who I just don't know what this filly could be, and then everybody else. Because she might have an upside that I don't know if it's better than Torpedo Anna, but could
It
at
has
least
to be, though. At this
but
point,
right,
it has
yeah,
to be because
right.
A, this horse hasn't run since August,
Yep,
and Torpedo Anna
is
had
fitter.
2 hard races that
Worse.
we
Yep,
know were very difficult races.
yep,
You'd
taxing.
have to wonder how much she has left in the tank.
Yep.
I mean,
But the only thing is that outside, like, I'm with you. Like, I don't think this is just like, I was looking at this spot as not going to be just a layup for Torpedo Anna because of those last couple races and what they may have done to her. In particular, the Travers. That had to take so much out of her against Fierceness. She ran way faster than she'd ever been pressed or asked. And then she regressed back to kind of where she was running earlier in the year. Actually, her first start off the bench, she'd been faster in every race since then.
Right, and you can see it just looks like she's tailing off, like on paper.
Probably it's been a tough year for her, you know.
A long
It's
year,
been a
and she's
lot.
been running well. She's been in great form all year. A letdown wouldn't be impossible in this spot. Candied, I think they're going to switch tactics. I think they're gonna force the issue here and make Torpedo Anna earn it. And then if somebody else gets involved, then we have a party.
Yep.
Then it'll get crazy, and a horse like Honor D Lady could actually win.
Yep.
I think that horse has a shot if the pace sets up. It might not. I mean, I would put this horse underneath Torpedo Anna anyway, just to fill out exactas and
agree.
such. I think this horse merits a really good chance, on the cutback. I really don't, not on the cutback, going a mile and an eighth again. But man, this horse was running longer at Delaware, when the Delaware handicap, and won that pretty easy. 30-1 seems a little wild. Because this horse has been really good this year.
And after Torpedo Anna, and then who knows whatever the 9 is, the 6 should be like the next horse, and then everybody else is not that different.
No,
like
they're
the
all
rest
pretty
of this
much the
field
same.
are all like, okay, probably like a grade 3 horse that like they're in this race because there's not a whole lot of other the top horses right now in this division. That's why I'm glad you mentioned Candy too, because Candy does feel like it's a good spot for her to be very competitive in this race.
Yeah, they got to get aggressive though. They can't
Agree.
do what they were doing before and expect to
Get a little lost.
They have to do something different in order to beat Torpedo Anna.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that she's sort of vulnerable.
Yeah. I think we hit the way I see most of this race. I mean, some of these horses look a little overmatched, and I'm sure they'd be very happy with just hitting the board in here, and they would be ecstatic. It's Torpedo's race to lose, Torpedo Anna, but maybe a horse like the 9 has a ceiling that we don't even quite know. Awesome Result, who I heard this trainer talking a little bit also on FanDuel, and he's super I don't know why you wouldn't be. He's so confident in this horse. Just like, yeah, I think our main rival will be Torpedo Anna, but I think we can beat. Like, it was just, oh wow, it's kind of funny.
Like brushed her off. Like, yeah, she's okay, but
very much like, yeah, I think it's her, but I'm not really worried about the rest of the field as much. And it was like, this is probably a handicapper would say, but maybe they know something we don't know. With Awesome Result. It's a look at the Breeders' Cup Distaff. That's race 6 on Saturday. 7th race is the Breeders' Cup Turf, 1.5 miles in here. This one's, I think the distance in this race is what makes it either easy or hard, depending on how you're looking at it, because a lot of these horses, I'm just not sure, especially some of the U.S. horses, if they're as much of 1.5 miles. But when we start with Rebels Romance, who is a mile and a halfer when you look at that overall record, who's 9 for 12 going this trip and won the Breeders' Cup turf back in 2022. So definitely capable and is coming into this race very similar off of that win in Germany, going a mile and a half against softer but Group 1 company to set up nicely for a race like this. Lost to a horse named Goliath, two-back who is incredible. Was in there with Blue Stocking, who you see in some of the top form lines. So I think you start with him. One of my tough ones last year was the 3 Shariar. This was the horse that I saw. I was out in the mornings, and I was really excited seeing Shariar in the mornings. I thought was one of the horses that stood out to me, and was down on the inside.
Right,
and
Ryder made an error, man.
Yeah, it was just one of those like
stayed on the rail. If he would have stayed on the rail, he would have been in front of August Rodin and won.
Yep, and would have won the race, and ends up finishing third at 25-1.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
like
kind
this
of
horse.
Me too. And you look to the point I was making before about Rebels Romance. This is a mile and a halfer too. Just as a horse who's much better going this distance, longer. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Shariar here. Shariar.
Yeah, Shariar. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Rochamp Park is very interesting to me. This horse is on firm turf since last year 5 times. Won 3 of those races and just missed at a mile and a quarter at Hashin. I just don't see how. I mean, I guess it was kind of like, all right, we'll just give this horse a number. But if you look at this horse's past performances, and if you check out any of these races, this horse is pretty good. Probably shouldn't be 20-1.
This would be like 12.
Yeah, 10, 12.
That would be more fitting.
Range. Yeah.
Because after Rebels Romance, there's a lot of question marks.
Yes.
In this group. Like, that's the proven horse. Shariar was good in the Breeders' Cup turf last year. Definitely proven. I think the 2, Logical, and another horse who has good form going a mile and a half. So, I
was going to say the pace scenario here is kind of murky too.
Absolutely.
I thought initially maybe Cabo Spirit, but I think Farbridge is probably going to be the pace setter here.
And I think they want to get.
They want to, yeah, they should. I mean, because they could easily slow this pace down and do exactly what they did in the Sword Dancer, and win this race. But I mean, knowing what you have behind you, it's going to be tough.
And if you're Farbridge, if I was Rosario, I would try to park myself right behind Cabo Spirit, let him go, and then me try to jump before everybody else jumps and get a couple length advantage on everyone, not get caught up battling with him. Let him go a little bit. I'll sit right behind and then boom, try to pounce. Because he's been in nice form right now, but I thought this was a little more of because I try to get towards from like the outside in. There goes Harvard, who I've liked before, but this is a lot for him, especially from way out there. Gold Phoenix, he's not really a mile and a halfer. He was 4th in the Breeders' Cup turf last year, so he wasn't that far behind, but he actually got a pretty, things broke pretty well for him that day.
To get a great trip.
To get that 4th, exactly. Versus like Shariar, who finished 3rd with trouble. So he likes Del Mar, though, Gold Phoenix. I'm just kind of eliminating some of these horses. Wingspan, class-wise, and then distance-wise, some question marks. Has to kind of show it. El Encino hasn't really proven it at this type of level. Cabo Spirit really needs the lead. Grand Sonata's not quite this quality at this level. So, you can start eliminating, or at least for me, horses that I was like, I can't really play them in here. I eliminated a good amount.
Yeah, most of these horses, to be honest. I mean,
yeah,
all the foreign horses you would have to think have a chance, and then maybe 1 or 2 of the Americans. You'll figure one of them
that has the speed, really, right? Those are the ones you're looking at, the ones that might be able to just get the jump, because otherwise, they're just not class-wise and distance-wise the same horses.
And I think, a horse like Grand Sonata, you had to have him last time.
Absolutely. That was the way when you wanted him. He was no match in a weak Sword Dancer for Farbridge, right? Just looking at the way that race was that day. So he needs softer company too than I think he'll find here. I had a lot of 3 and 11 with Shariar and Rebels Romance. I thought those were the top two. Above, I mentioned Emily Upjohn as another one who has the distance that you want to include. And Barry, who else do we talk about?
Yeah, Rebels Romance is a little tricky because this horse runs good on firm ground, but inexplicably just came over here, ran in Naira, and just didn't do anything.
Oh, I know.
I know that first race was kind of a mess.
That was so strange. Like, right after winning the Breeders' Cup, the horse just completely tailed off form for 3 races in a row, all, at short in the Dubai Shima Classic and then in the Bowling Green and the Turf Classic at short prices. So
right, and they dropped them into a Group 3 for a win, or actually an ungraded
first to build the confidence back up on the synthetic.
So something must have really went wrong.
And then
the horse is in good form now, though.
Yeah, definitely right back up towards where he was at his best. Here's a look at the Breeders' Cup Turf race number 7 on Saturday. 8th race is the Classic. So what they did is they put the Classic in the middle before TV purposes, and it is kind of cool that it's the end of the early pick 5 and starts the late pick 5.
Late, yeah.
I think that's a good idea if you think it's the main event. And from a gambling standpoint and a conversation standpoint, this is as good of a race as I can remember, honestly. It's so good. There are international horses. You have some good younger horses. You have some good, the younger 3-year-olds facing older, and then some olders. I mean, the 3 City of Troy is the morning line favorite. He's never even been on the dirt, but he's 6 for 7 on the grass and has faced some of the best horses. Group 1 winner. He's awesome. The 1 Forever Young, he looks almost like City of Troy, where they're both 6 for 7. They both only have 1 loss. Forever Young's only loss was when Sierra Leone's leaning on him in the Derby, and he's beat by a head. That's it. He's won everything else. He was off from May to October, shows up in October and gets the perfect prep race that knocks off some of the rust, and then he can come back to the U.S. where he's already been. Those 2 and Fierceness are like the horses where if everybody showed up and ran their best game, they ran their best races and got the trip with their A game, those horses are capable of really big things. Like all 3 of them. If City of Troy likes the dirt, right, and he shows up with his same sort of class, he could run a monster race. Forever Young, he might be sitting on a huge one. And we've seen Fierceness run some really, he has a 110 and a 111 buyer this year. So the top 2 fastest buyer speed figures this year were Fierceness and Arthur's Ride, and I think Fierceness and one other. So he had 2 different races that were basically as fast as anyone's run this year on speed figures. Those 3 horses are all really high ceiling horses.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is a hell of a race, man. A horse like it's just, I think I have a issue trying to figure out how this race is going to be bet.
Yes.
Because
I completely agree.
Highland Falls, I think the morning line is off. I think this horse is going to take a little bit of action and is not going to be 20-1.
No.
Given the
10,
pace scenario,
10 would make sense.
10 to 15 makes more sense.
Yep. I was even at 10 to 12. Perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like much more sense.
City of Troy is kind of overvalued in this spot.
I agree. And
I
the
really
1
don't like this horse at all.
Is going to get bet.
Yes, absolutely.
And should. Like if the 1 and the 3 were flip-flopped, I wouldn't even be shocked.
No, nobody would bat an eye.
Like, so Fierceness will always get money. He deserves to with some of the big figures that he gets. But I agree with you in that sense. Like there's a couple that I was having a hard time getting to. Tappa Trice feels like 30-1 feels too high on a horse like this too. He feels more like 15.
Yeah, I think that it's high, but I think the point would be that this horse is not going to get bet.
And not as much of a win candidate, probably.
I will say, as much as I don't like this horse, this is a spot that actually Tapit Trice could win
in a
because of
big
the
field
setup.
with
Yes,
a lot of
the
pace where he
setup.
just takes back and
Hmm.
waits and then just makes his run.
Yeah, I can totally see it. He's fast enough to win this race.
And
He's talented enough. He's just kind of a head case, and he needs to be ridden hard to try to go. I mean, I remember seeing this horse at
Tampa, right?
the Tampa Bay Derby. Luis Saez rode this horse probably a third of the race as hard as he could, and the horse just took like a million years. It felt like just to get his wheels spinning,
And then started
and then once
yeah.
he got it going, they couldn't stop him. He was just so much faster than everybody else.
And
I
look at
think
this
that kind
year.
of, yeah, he's
This
been
year,
better. He's
he was
improved.
he was good last year. He was third in the Belmont. He was third in the Travers. And then the Monmouth Cup this year, he comes back really good first off the bench. Regressed a little bit. Didn't really fire in the Jockey Club. It's kind of disappointing. And then he was very good in the Woodward that day. So yeah, I if I was giving out just a fun long shot horse for this race, I thought because he'll pass half the field at least.
Yeah,
And
late.
once they
Yeah,
back up, when those horses that are speed horses don't want to go this far and they get caught, he'll pass them. Does he get the trip? Is he get it? Is he good enough? But those are questions. Because the way you're talking about it, I'm doing it. I'm not putting him on top, but I'm using Sierra Leone in here. And it's funny because he, was talking about this a little bit with David Aragona. We did that full classic preview. The way he gets talked about is like a horse that's 0 for 15 and like gets beaten by like 5 lengths every time. It's really funny. Like he's never been beaten by more than a length and 3/4. Like, so never even beaten by 2 lengths in any race. This is one of those
it
bigger,
somehow doesn't win.
right? Yeah, somehow he doesn't win. This is one of those bigger fields where he'll get some pace to run at. In any trifecta, superfecta, exacta, I'm playing him. And what's funny too, from the Remsen to the Travers, he's gotten faster on speed figures every time.
And
He's
still,
running faster races,
and
but it's
still only
funny.
won twice in that span.
But it's crazy. Like, is it his like I feel like when we talk about him, like he's just no good. He definitely can win or
Oh
at
yeah.
least be right there in a race like this. He's his own worst enemy. He gets quirky. We know what happens. He kind of leans in. They've changed equipment on him a few times, but it's funny. Everybody will say that. And then I bet most people would, if they put up like a top 4, he would probably be like 3rd or 4th, because of like his running style and what he does. So, and that's what I did. I have him like 3rd in here because I think, just like we were saying with Tapit Trice, he's going to pass a lot of horses in this race.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no doubt about it. Especially late.
yep,
Same thing with Ushba Tesoro.
yep,
That one will be coming late. I think that horse actually merits a really good chance because I think last year the horse just didn't come into the race the right way,
yeah.
and he's coming into it this year a lot better. Um,
So it's funny
it,
because him and Derma Sotogake are like kind of polar opposites. Like Derma Sotogake didn't take any money last year, ran awesome in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and then hasn't fired since in 3 races. Ushba Tesoro was all the buzz last year coming
mhm.
into the Breeders' Cup Classic. Didn't really fire. The race didn't shape up for him. He was way out of it. Like he
No,
didn't run a
yeah, the
bad
pace
race, but
wasn't really that fast,
he,
and it
like,
hurt him
but he just, you could say was
way back.
disappointing for a
Yeah.
horse who took money that day. But
Mhm.
then this year, he's been really good. Since that Breeders' Cup, he won a Group 1 immediately following that. He was 2nd in the Saudi Cup, 2nd in the Dubai World Cup, and came back and was 2nd again in his first start off the bench. So David liked this horse too. He's just under the radar. Nobody's really talking about him in here. He's probably going to be, I think, 12 to 15 to 1.
Yeah, yeah, that price is solid.
I think he
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
he does. I like him. I this is what I was talking about mostly when I was saying how the way they ride the races. Like last year, the jock just got lost,
Yep.
and they were way back. I
It's a
mean,
great example.
they
Yeah.
weren't even in the picture, and the horse came flying late.
He
I mean,
ran well late, but he was just out of touch with the
just
field.
way far back, and he probably merited a pretty decent shot to hit the board, and just didn't. He was just way back. Hopefully they'll get in the game a little bit earlier and have this horse kind of in range, and that'll make all the difference. Really, that's what I think the trip Newgate is going to get, and I like Newgate a lot here.
Yeah, and you know what, man? I will say
I told you I like Newgate the last time in
he
the
ran
California
really
Crown, and
well. He ran
huge.
really well. That was his career best race. And if you've watched this horse in the mornings, he is training
better.
so good in the mornings right now.
Monster.
Like when we did the preview with David, we both had the same tone in our voice. Like you're saying, we're like, God, I've got to find a way to get to use Newgate and some of the exotics and like get him into at least hitting the board, because that would pay out nicely,
I want
right?
him on top.
Oh, for sure. But like, I wouldn't be shocked to see like a really solid second or third from a horse that I think a lot of people are going to dismiss.
Yeah,
in here.
yeah, he's forgotten. I mean, the Bafferts are kind of forgotten a little bit.
They are,
because he wasn't involved in the Derby again this year.
Yep.
His horses, were kind of wishy-washy for a little bit, and it looks like they're kind of getting their act together at the right time.
Yep.
The ones he has in the Breeders' Cup, he doesn't have many, but they are kind of live and they do have speed, so you'll know what to expect from them. But yeah, I got the Japanese horses in here. They're gonna be tough, and
they are.
And I was on the same line as you. Might take a flyer with something with Tapatrice and Sierra Leone underneath.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And I do like Newgate quite a bit. So it's going to be a challenge to try to come up with some bets, especially
to try to get them in the mix. Yeah.
Yeah, especially the verticals where it could get crazy. I mean, Senior Buscador has been honest as anybody, right? and he runs past horses late all the time.
And he just needs the trip. Like he ran some monster races earlier in the year and late last year, and then he went off form a little bit, but they were planning it out this way. Mm-hmm. You just would have liked to see him run a little bit more competitive in the last couple, but this was the plan, was set him up with 2 races leading into the Classic. So, man, 11 Grade 1 or Group 1 winners in this race out of the 14.
Yeah, we haven't had one like this, a Classic like this, in a while, and it's good to see.
And you've got like Forever Young, City of Troy, horses from all over the world in here.
Okay.
Gake, Ushba Tessero, right?
What's your thoughts on next?
I'm glad they take the shot, but it's such a bummer that
they got
if they would have taken a shot at a couple of the races at Saratoga, maybe you'd be more competitive. Like, who knows? Arthur's Ride wins one of those races, and Highland Falls was, but those groups weren't as deep and as competitive, and he's way out wide. Like, I think it's better to be out wide than inside for him, but in my head, where is he? Where is he in this race?
What kind of trip is he going to get?
Because if he is anywhere close to where his past performances look like, he's going to be going too fast, way too fast to be around late for a group like this. If he's sitting half a length off, they're going to be going way faster than he's used to.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is more like that he's going to be 5 or 6 lengths behind.
Yeah.
Which, is he going to do that?
That can't be good either.
Like, you want him sitting next to and closing with some of these closers we're talking about.
Right.
Sierra Leone, Ushba Tessero.
International superstar, Ushba Tessero.
Senor Buscador, who's got a wicked kick when they want. Even Tapatrice, Sierra Leone. These horses who will come closing. So that's the problem.
It's just a bad spot.
It is.
I mean,
I applaud him taking a shot. I'm glad they did. I wish they would have done it a little earlier, and they could have gotten a real feel for what we're saying. Okay, if they go faster, can he be fine sitting 3 or 4 lengths off and no problem? Maybe. You just don't know until you see it.
Yeah.
Let's get to the late pick 4 on Breeders' Cup Saturday. We move to race number 9. This one is the Filly and Mare Turf mile and 3/8 on the turf course. We have Warlike Goddess, who was in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mirror Turf back in 2021. She finished third. She was in the Breeders' Cup Turf twice. And the reason why she chooses different, because she's probably better going a little longer in the turf, where it gives her a mile and a half. The mile and 3/8 a little bit shorter for her with her running style, Barry, because she's just not fast early. That's the problem with her. She's really, really classy 7-year-old mare who's a 12-time winner. But when she gets beat, it's because they go slow early or she just gets too far back and caught in traffic.
Yep, and it always happens at the Breeders' Cup. So yeah.
Yeah, well, because there's what ends up
Can't
happening is,
believe they made her the favorite. She's no way.
I think I know she's worth trying to play, because what ends up happening is she is so one-dimensional in that we usually talk about horses that are one-dimensional as one-dimensional speed. She's just one-dimensional closer and not really tactical at all. Where when she faces other really good horses, a lot of them have multiple gears, or they're like more versatile than her. They're just quicker early, they get involved in the race, and they can still finish well. So that's just a problem with her in these races. And then in this particular race, there is not much speed at all.
None.
It's Felicia, and I
everybody
don't know
else.
who. Yeah,
Didia, maybe.
And Didia is kind of a fun pick 4, pick 5 horse, because she just did not fire at all in that John C. Maybe. And it was weird because both her and Anisette were your top two favorites.
Nowhere to be found.
Came out to get a nice, get the prep at Del Mar, and both of them just didn't fire. And because of it, you'll get a way better price on Didia now than you would have in this race. She was only 9-1 in the Filly and Mirror Turf last year. She got a bad trip from way out wide. She could get a lot better trip in here, sitting like second or third.
Absolutely. It's strange that this race has come up this slow early. And I think it plays right into Didia's hands.
Yeah.
Because I think that horse can outfinish Full Count Felicia. And if Jose Ortiz can get this horse in position, basically just kind of get past Cinderella's Dream, who's not going to be in any kind of hurry, and Warlike Goddess, who's directly the two horses inside of that one. This is the kind of stuff that where this horse can get a dream trip in a big race. And at 12-1 on your home court,
yeah,
I mean, this horse has to be ready to go. I just think she's sitting on a really good race.
Now from a mile and from like a real distance standpoint, because Chad Brown actually talks about this, the Filly and Mirror distance is kind of like a little difficult because they don't run that many mile and 3. Like you look at, you'll get a few of the mile and 3/8 horses. It's kind of in between. They should probably be a little shorter than a mile and 3/8 to kind of get horses more like Didia in the mix. So we have to see that Didia can get this trip. One horse that's super proven at the trip is the 7.
Yes.
Content, who was awesome in August. And then the last 2 races just had really soft turf. And if you look at the last 3 times this horse has been on soft turf, it hasn't really fired.
And is a dead closer.
Could be in a tough spot here. I prefer her to Warlike Goddess because she'll be a much better price. And she's just a little like proven against classier. But I'm with you. I'm looking for more tactical horses in this race. The ones that we were kind of starting with.
Mm-hmm. And, one of the Europeans that I do like in this spot is the 12 Soprano.
Yeah.
I like that race in the QE2. It sets this horse up really, really good. This horse is getting beat by Porta Fortuna, who's very, very good.
Because this isn't the strongest.
No, it's not. It's not.
Breeders' Cup race. The Filly. Because I mean, the 3, for example, is 4-1. I think she may float up a little bit, but when you kind of look at the race, like I can understand why
she's okay.
She might make some money because she's just lightly raced for good connections, but she's never gone this far, and she has to face older
Right.
also
There's some
and get
question marks
faster,
there. Right.
like, and run faster than she's run in some of her recent races too. So yeah,
Same thing with Content is a 3-year-old also.
yeah. So it does look like a race where, 2 and 5, Barry, especially Didia. 2, I like Full Count Felicia, who could be in front of Didia. They'll be up front early on. I think I saw that
And
Lang Lang
Moira
is
was the other
scratched.
one. Yeah, Lang Lang
Yeah,
did scratch.
yeah.
Um, but Moira has the
The
speed figures and
and the foundation.
yeah, should be real tough. I mean, she's an old pro.
The race that was so impressive to me was the one 2 years ago.
Mm,
She ran in the Philly and Mirror Turf in her second turf start and was fit and was not beaten that much behind Lady
Tuesday, yeah.
Sight Spear and Italian and Tuesday, a really good group. And then she was third in the Philly and Mirror Turf last year again. So she's stepped up and been really good against top level company. So I'm going to be using her in pick 4s and pick 5s as well.
Yeah, she's never really bet outside of Canada that much.
Yeah,
Um, you should get a good price.
there's
Probably
Moira.
inflated, probably more than the 8-1.
Yeah, maybe like 12-ish. I
Yeah.
could see her in that range. There is a look at the Philly and Mare Turf. They'll try to hold off the 4 Warlike Goddess. Barry and I'll see if we can beat her and try to use some more of these tactical runners in here. Let's get to race number 10. Final 3 races on Breeders' Cup Saturday. We get to the Breeders' Cup Sprint. 6 furlongs with the number 3, Federal Judge. Horse who's very sharp right now. Extremely impressive in the Phoenix. But you look at the field. Raging Torrent draws the inside, wants to be forwardly placed. Federal Judge, very, very fast. The number 6, Ben Tornado, he doesn't want to be far out of it. He's never really closed for more than a length or 2. Straight No Chaser and Federal Judge, those 2 could be hooking it up
I hope
early
so.
on.
That's what we
Yeah,
want.
that's what I think, and that's what I'm going for.
Throwing Milliken.
Yeah, Mulligan is one that wants to be pretty close to it too, and Skelly absolutely does.
On the
So,
engine.
yeah, so we see it the same way. Like there is a lot of early speed in here. Who does that gravitate you? Who do you gravitate towards with that?
It actually gravitates me towards basically 2 European horses. Metamax is one of them. It's just a closer. This horse should get the setup that he needs in order to win. How fast he is, when it's all said and done, not really sure. But I know this race sets up for this horse. He just got to stay in touch. This happened before. Like even when they won, remember the year they won a couple of races, the Japanese.
Yes.
They came from way out of it.
Mm-hmm. The one was because it was a distaff that fell apart, absolutely fell apart, and they were flying late.
Yeah, because I forget the horse. It was the
Malathat and Clairiere were like underneath, right? And then they got beat right on the water.
The speed horse that had a workout that was way too fast.
Yeah, yeah.
I forget the name.
Last year, Tio Dennis.
No,
is that the one? Well, Tio Dennis is running in here, and that was a horse that went running later, and that was a horse that was really impressive in the Ali Sheba, like fast type of thing. So you're right. Like it's like trying to play. Like you mentioned it. It's like if you were playing soccer against someone else and you came from a different country, right? And you had a different style of play and like someone's really patient with how they play and they're aggressive. It's like Brazilian football versus something else. Like that's sort of what you're talking about with these Japanese horses who are good. They just have to figure out with these horses, like the style. Okay, this horse, we got to use a little bit more here. This is how this race is going to shape up. And that leads me to who I like in here is the 9 Remake, who's just really proven internationally at the top level of sprinting. I mean, you go up and down this horse's past performances, they're awesome. Always shows up, not right on the lead. I mean, go back to 2023. He's not that far behind Elite Power and Gunite in the Riyadh Dirt Sprint. He's only beaten the length in the Golden Shaheen. We see him win the Korea Sprint. We see him win the Riyadh Dirt Sprint this year. He's in the Golden Shaheen again. He's fourth that day. And then he comes off the bench. He gets the Korea Sprint race to shake off some of the rust. And now he can step forward, second start off. He beat a horse named Anarchist, who's a U.S. horse who went out there and was third that day. I like him. I think he sits a really nice trip. I thought, no joke, all three of the 5, 7, and 9 are all playable.
Yeah.
From Japan.
I'm with you.
Getting those trips that we're talking about.
Yep. I'm with you, because those are the ones that I zeroed in on. And I did get that name of the horse. It's Latruska.
There we go. That's who we're talking about. Yep. That was Latruska. That was when Latruska would always be battling up front and like didn't want to sit. I think Clarier was in there too, came rolling late. Yeah. Yep. That was the field, and that was the one.
And I got the Baffert horse that I couldn't remember. It was Taiba. The one that went from 6 furlongs to 1 mile and 8.
Oh, yeah.
Taiba.
Yeah. And was like a Derby legit, like
he was going good. Into the really Derby. Good horse.
Really nice. So yeah, I think why we're kind of going to some of the Japanese horses in this race too is like this group of sprinters doesn't have a lot of horses who have been proven sprinters for a while. You know, the horses who are favored and probably get favored in this race, like the 3 Federal Judge and like Mulliken, they only have a couple races recently where they've been kind of graded stakes sprinters. So we don't really know how good they are. And you wonder if the trip isn't ideal for them. Are they the type of horses who are going to overcome that kind of trip? Are they going to deal with a bunch of speed and kick on? You know, I don't know, because we haven't really had to see them do that.
We haven't seen them enough. I mean,
you're right. We haven't seen them enough, period.
You know, and then that actually upgrades Nakatomi because of the trip. I just don't want to take a short price on that horse.
I know. And like, he's been in some good spots where he's gotten the trip. I don't know how good he is overall. Like, he was third in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year.
He pops up and runs big every now and then, but not every time.
And that's the problem. It's like, how much you want to take on him from a price standpoint. We think the Japanese runners are very live in here. Remake was the one that I mentioned. Barry went to the 7 Meta Max first. 5's another one. They should be flying early in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Final 2 races, the mile on the turf, and then the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Race 11, the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile on the turf. We will start, I guess from a pace standpoint, you start with Goliath, because you know where this guy is going to be. He will be winging it early. He wants to run off. He's always kind of a scary horse in any race that he's in because of that. You know, in a race like this where it would be funny, it wouldn't be shocking to see everyone just kind of sit their trip, and he's like, still got a length or two turning for home, you know, and Pratt's really good with horses on the front end. But man, there are some classy horses in here. The 6 Notable Speech and the 7 Porta Fortuna, both really, really nice. Multiple Group 1 winners. Then Johannes, he is 7 for 8 on the turf. Extremely nice horse. From a talking standpoint, those are a couple to start with. And poor Carl Spackler, he's way out wide. He's 7 for 10 on the grass, and he's won 6 of his last 7 races. But this is a lot tougher than what he's been facing, and he's probably going to get a pretty tough trip from out there. Who are some of the horses you want to talk about, Barry?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because the fillies in this race look really interesting, especially the one.
It's my top pick.
Ramatuelle. Is that how you say that?
Ramatuelle, I think it was.
Okay.
Ramatuelle.
Okay.
Yeah. So this horse makes a ton of sense in here, because I think in the races where she's losing to Porta Fortuna, it's just because Porta Fortuna's a little quicker,
a little handier,
and a little handier, and absolutely. And in here, she can save all the ground. And now second start back off the bench. I really like her in this spot.
I do too. Just for all those reasons that you mentioned. I think she's also improving, getting better. That race off the bench from June, sets her up perfectly. But it's a tough task. She's going against males, and there's
Older.
there's other ones, yeah, older horses too. Same
But
thing
she's
with
done this
Portofino.
before, right? We've seen her face boys. We've seen her
Hmm.
face the older, like she did last time out, beating a nice horse in Kinross. That was a really, really powerful performance because she was close up early. She got shuffled back,
Yeah, she
and
got
then she got a little bit of room and like exploded.
took off. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
Um, Diego Velasquez, the 4, is really, really interesting too, and
Back
and
in
kind
form.
of they look similar on paper, the
Yep.
4 and the 1, and I think they're going to run to it. Um, Diego Velasquez has been running with some real nice horses. Chihuahua is in there. Luke de Vega. Those are some nice horses he's been facing, and this actually might be considered kind of a step down in class almost.
And when you look at the turf courses as well, you can probably give like the heavy and the soft, like some of those turf, you can just probably eliminate those
Limited,
races.
yeah. I mean, that's clearly not something they're going to be running on Saturday.
No.
Um, and I also heard some rumors that Notable Speech was on the scratch list, or
Oh, okay.
might be,
Okay. We'll keep an eye
but
on
we'll
that one.
see. If that does happen and that horse comes out, this opens this race wide open.
Yep.
I mean, Notable Speech on paper should be real tough in this spot, but not unbeatable. Johannes, I love this horse. Um, you know, I just don't know what kind of price we're gonna get.
He's nice and he's
I
gotten
like him a
better
lot.
and he's really versatile. Um, this is a good strong group, really competitive, really contentious. I think you make cases for many. How about the 11-1 2 starts back at 207-1 won the Victoria Mile back in May. That's one of the bigger prices you'll see there on 10 Happy Rows. I mean, even the
Was he
8,
the longest shot in the board? Was she the longest
I don't
shot?
know.
No.
Hey, I'm not. Who knows? Yeah, who knows? That's a even the 8 was only beaten 2 lengths in the Breeders' Cup Mile last year, and it would not be shocking at all to see this barn, who's been so good over the last couple years and really coming onto the scene, win a Breeders' Cup race or have this horse get the trip if they go quick early on, come closing. Just you know what you need. You know with him what you need. He needs some pace to run at. He needs some
Pace.
help, but he certainly has a ceiling that could put him really close and right in the mix, even with some of the classy European runners. I were both on the 1. Ramat UL. There we go. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Um,
you got it. You got
we'll
it.
go. We'll go for around 4 or 5 to 1. I think is a very fair price in this race on that one.
Yeah, I
Eh,
think the betting is probably going to be everybody's going to be kind of around the same price.
I
I
do
would I
too.
would say like 2 to 1, maybe even a 5 to 2 favorite here.
I don't think we get
Um,
shorter than that. No way. Yeah.
yeah,
I think notable speech, Porta Fortuna take money. The 1 will take
Johannes
money.
will take some
The
money, so
Johannes will
it's going
take
to be
some money for
spread.
sure. Yep.
Spackler's going to take some money too.
Absolutely.
So
Even Diego off the
mhm.
connections, like will probably be in the 6. Wouldn't shock me between 6 and 10, like right there, um, competitive, contentious, be a fun betting race number 11. Let's get to the Dirt Mile, the finale on Saturday, Breeders' Cup Saturday. Big thank you to Barry. It is 2:00 Eastern time in Florida right now for Barry as we finish recording this. So that's
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm probably not going to sleep until after the election.
oh my gosh, I was gonna say I'm you and you know me right now too, man. I've started to get the anxiety the last couple of weeks, man. It's weighing in on me lately too. So I try
It's
to stay
ramping
quiet
up.
on a lot of things, but man, every now and then it just certain things perk me a little too much, and I gotta chime in. But you're right, like I will I will sleep a lot better, hopefully, like
On
Tuesday night.
November
But we're not
6th.
gonna know anything. I was gonna say we're not gonna know anything that night
November
either. We
6th,
won't.
maybe
Like
even the
yeah,
9th, I might get some sleep.
a few days more. Uh, shout out Kamala. Let's get to the Dirt Mile, my friend, and let's finish this thing up. So top contenders in here. Saudi Crown, who was in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year, I really thought this was going to be a great spot for him. The only thing that I'm a bit worried about,
Too
he
short
missed. Well, he missed the prep
time.
that he was going to
Yeah.
run in at Churchill in September. So that would have been his second start back. And then also he's down on the inside. Tio Dennis is the horse I was just talking about, who's right next door. He's really fast.
Fast.
Just him alone. Full Serrano, he is very fast. Look at the fractions he ran in August 3rd at Del Mar. He went sub 22 and sub 45 and kept going. And he's run really well. He tried to do the same thing in the Pacific Classic, just keep going, and ran a big figure that day. So those three inside horses are all really, really fast, and they're all down to the inside. The 6, for example, he's not as fast as some of them, but he needs to be not on the lead, but within like 2 lengths. He does not want to be far off. He's not going to be coming from way, way out of it. All of his best races are there. Tumbarumba, he wants to be forwardly placed. He doesn't want to be too far out of it.
Right.
The domestic product's kind of versatile. Muth, he doesn't want to be too far out of it. He wants to be sitting pretty close. Cagliostro, he wants to be in there. Mufasa. If Milo hears me, he's going to smile from the other room. He loves this one. And shout out to Jason Beam, who on August 12th, when he won at Colonial, he did at the end, it's Mufasa. And I was showing Milo the call, and he must have asked me, Dad, show me the Mufasa race again. Show me the Mufasa race. It was laughing every time. So I always make me laugh because I'll remember that one. And we're big Lion King fans over here. We've been in that Lion King range for the last 8 months to a year or so. He's super fast. Skippy, second last year or third in the dirt mile last year. He's way out wide.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to close.
Challenged.
Like, he wants to be sitting really close. He's kind of a grinder, but he wants to be up front grinding. So, man, they could be flying early on in here with this combination of horses in a 14-horse field.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that that Saudi Crown's going to be a fresh horse. That horse is going to be cranked up and running fast. Tio Dennis has only one way to go, the 3, like you said. And it doesn't really leave much left. After that, I don't like domestic product. This horse gets bet a lot and just doesn't come through. And I think, this horse was beating tomato cans early in the year and kind of fell into a win at Tampa Bay at the Tampa Bay Derby, and then it's kind of mediocre. And when they cut this horse back, it did make a difference. But I'm not sold on a horse like this in this race.
He's going to really take a ton of money. Yeah, that's the problem.
No, thank you.
And I agree with you in that, like, he's had a funny career because going into the Derby, there was always this buzz about him as an incredible horse in the mornings. Like, he trained really well and he had all this ability in the mornings, but he hadn't really thrown up any big speed figures yet. So going into the Derby, he'd only had an 87 Beyer. That was his fastest. So he wasn't really like all that fast. And he was training well, and everybody kept talking about him as like a morning horse that you want to keep an eye on. And then he finally ran a lot faster on speed figures, but he didn't really, like, in the Dwyer, he beat nothing. He got a good trip in the Jerkins, and he beat an okay group that day. But yeah, like, I wouldn't be shocked to see him run well. He just feels like he's going to be way shorter than what his win odds for this race should be.
The track profile doesn't really favor his style.
Yeah.
And with horses like Muth in this race and even, Cagliostro to a little bit, who can sit off a little, I think getting first run might be where it's at in this race. Because there's really not going to be too many. Like, horse like Katona is a closer, but it's just not good enough in this spot. So Post Time is the one that kind of piques my attention. This horse has been running good all year, just needs a little bit of a break. And I think, with Saudi Crown kind of being quote unquote out of class, I don't think this horse is a miler. I think this horse's speed carries farther than that.
And what
so it's a different kind of speed.
What happened too with Post Time, like, he's gotten he gets a little lost in the middle
He
of the
does
race.
in the middle of races.
And so you got to like Russell really has to stick to him.
Shake him up. Yeah.
Right. And if you don't stay like when that happens and he gets a little lost, like Arthur's Ride gets too much separation. National Treasure gets too much separation. But look at when he loses. It's to Arthur's Ride, who's a fast horse in the classic, who National Treasure, who would have been favored in this race if he was in here again this year, and Messier, who's a multiple graded stakes winner. And the key with all three of those horses, they're all way faster. They have speed, and they're in races where there's no passing.
Right.
Look at those races. They're smaller fields, or the Whitney when Arthur's Ride just went gate to wire. The Met, which was a field of 6, really a field of 5 because White Abario didn't even fire that day.
Well,
the Westchester was a small field. He's going to get some pace. And his last race, it was like a perfect type of race for this, where he had to move early in that race. And that's what I want to see from him in here, because he'll finish with these horses, and the best in here, he just has to get going earlier on. They have to start the moving earlier.
Well, what you were talking about is something that I do. And it's upgrading those races that don't look as good on paper.
Yep.
So it would be the April 6th race, the May 3rd race, and the June 8th. There was some, well, not the April 6th, May 3rd, June 8th, and August 3rd.
Yep.
Those were better races than their buyer speed figure actually shows.
Absolutely. We know those horses.
Exactly. We knew, we saw the race, we know what happened. So the number really doesn't kind of quantify actually what went on, because it was actually better than that. So that's also something that gives me more confidence in a horse like Post Time going into this race, because this race is kind of all over the place once you figure out the pace scenario.
Because this isn't.
It's like, what do you do with a horse like Seize the Gray, who can do multiple things, hasn't really run all that fast consistently.
Exactly.
He does it every once in a while.
And now he's cutting back, so you wonder like what trip why.
What do they want to do here? They don't want to.
It may take away some of his advantage, which is like going longer. He can kind of get out front and be loose and like run comfortably. He just may be having to work too hard early in here, or having to be sitting too far back. Exactly, right? Which either way, it's like, okay, maybe he can do that. We really haven't seen it from him. So yeah, I thought this is a fascinating betting race.
Yeah,
this is one of my favorite betting races of the weekend, because a lot of variables in here.
I mean, you have Muth, whose last race was horrendous, but the horse came back, worked 3 times, and really, really well. And
he's had a couple hiccups this year, so maybe like just getting a few races back, the body of work, like that can't hurt him. Right? That feels like it'd only be better for him.
The cutback makes a lot of sense, and that'll keep this horse from being on the lead.
Drawn to the outside should help too.
Yeah, I mean, this horse projects to get a great trip. I just don't want a short price. It's going to be hard to take 9-2. Like if this horse is 9-2, I don't know if I could take that horse at 9-2.
There's a look at the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. It's going to go as race number 12. It's the finale on Breeders' Cup Saturday from Del Mar. Hopefully, we were able to lead you to a few winners on Friday or on Saturday. Remember, there are 2 separate videos if you're watching on YouTube. So if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, we have videos like this each and every week. Barry always helps me handicap the races. So if you're just catching this for the first time, we do exact same thing. We usually pick like the biggest races wherever they are, a pick 5 sequence. We were going through the Keeneland races. We'll probably talk some Del Mar, and then we'll get into Gulfstream pretty soon, right around Thanksgiving, right? Gulfstream's coming up in like a month. So we'll be spending a lot of time at Gulfstream Park from, probably Thanksgiving till March, April.
February.
Yeah, right in there. We'd always love to have you coming along. Share some comments with us. Let us know who you like in some of these races. If you agree, if you disagree, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Barry, man, thank you again. You helped me out this week. You were super flexible. My schedule was really busy. I wasn't able to get the recordings with a bunch of different guests like I'm able to do sometimes, but I got to get 14 races with my main man, Barry, which is just as good to me. So thank you, buddy. Much appreciated.
Oh, anytime. Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I love doing this every week with you.
We will be back next week talking some big races. Don't forget, folks, shop.drf.com. That's where you want to go. Everything you need for the Breeders' Cup. 14 championship races starting on Friday, over Friday, and on Saturday. Best of luck.